Hi, Ronnie. How's it going?
Okay, Jerry, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Oh, I know you weren't at the TCOG meeting today, but we're not entirely sure if the committee's gonna continue meeting quarterly anymore.
Oh,
Uh,
the Energy Committee, right?
yeah, the Energy Committee. Yep.
Yeah, I had my village meeting,
Hmm.
so I had to.
No, it's okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just wanted to kind of give you the update. Yeah,
okay.
it was the attendance was very low, and it didn't seem very focused. So Rod was unaware of. Well, we were kind of just debating whether or not it was worth having
Hmm.
those meetings, but just with we had 8 people there. 6 of them were 2 from county, two of them for CC, and 2 from the town of Ithaca. So
Right.
figured it wasn't that was kind of our indicator.
Yeah, if we ever come up with an appropriate candidate for discussion, we can always reconvene.
Yeah,
So
that's what Rod was saying. So
yeah, it's right now. There's just not anything. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Ronnie. How was your hike across England?
It was good.
You made it?
Yeah, we made it.
You got all the way across?
Yes, there were some trying days.
Hot?
No, it was just
No.
the opposite.
Oh, wow.
It was under 50 degrees with
Ooh,
very high
man.
winds. So when we were up on the crags, we had to be very careful because if you're stepping up or stepping down and the wind catches you wrong, you've got one foot on the ground and one not in the gust of wind. So it was that was a challenging walk, but we wound up walking like 194 miles altogether, and 92 of those were
Oh,
just for the wall.
wow.
So yeah,
I'm impressed. That's great.
yeah, it was. We saw a lot of different parts of
And what
England.
was how much time?
Oh, we were there like almost exactly a month. So
Yeah,
we were in the
fantastic.
Lake District. Then we did in Cumbria, Northumbria for the wall, and then we went down to Wales. So
Sounds like a fabulous trip.
I was, yeah. There's just so many pretty portions of that country that I think you could spend your entire life exploring them.
That's so full of history and so old.
So old, so much
So
architecture.
very, very old.
So it was good, and we met a lot of interesting people.
Neat.
Yeah, it was good. Let's see. Jerry. Not sure about. I think we're waiting for.
Is anyone else on our committee from the village?
Kathleen Yen.
Kathy Yen?
Yeah.
Good.
it's actually that brings up something that I wanted to talk about. Are you interested in having more members on the committee? And if so, how do you feel about like high schoolers? If they're
I don't have any issues against high schoolers if they're willing to contribute and listen, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So I will be attending a meeting for sustainability educators. I believe the last Tuesday of the month. And I heard from others that there's a few people over there that are connected to the high schools in the area. One of which is the Lansing. I think there's a school in located in between the town and village of Lansing, right?
There's a high
School.
school in the town of Lansing. It's
Yeah.
at the
Yeah,
eastern
village
western
doesn't have.
edge. Yeah.
Yep. And they have a sustainability club over there, and the teacher who is going to be there is a part of that. And if you would like, I can kind of advertise and see if they would be interested in having 1 or 2 of their uh members from their club join.
Okay. Does the town of Lansing have a task force related to clean energy, or
I'm sorry?
does the town of Lansing have a task force that would be that covers CEC and CSC agendas?
They that's a kind of a complicated question. Yes and no.
Mhm.
So the Conservation Advisory Committee, I believe, is designated as the climate smart task force.
Right.
I believe there's CEC. People who are like talking about the CEC program are different from that group.
Okay. All right.
So I need to schedule a meeting with you and Ed to see if it's worth pursuing as like a collaboration. But yeah, that's a different thing. Yep.
Okay. All right. Kathleen joined. Hi, Kathleen.
Sorry, I had to update the thing.
Yeah, that happens to me occasionally too. So don't worry about that. We were just chitting and chatting.
Okay.
So it's 5:06 p.m. and I'll call this meeting of the CSC CEC task force meeting to order, and we'll just kind of go through our agenda here. So the Joint Safety Action Plan Committee from Toppins County is well underway. They've put together a public-facing website with a lot of the information that we're using as resources, plus some artifacts of this work. They're about to have 4 public meetings to capture public input. The first one is next Wednesday. I think it's online, or a remote call video conference. There's one that will be at the Ithaca's Farmers Market on the 27th, Newfield on the 26th, and Trumansburg Farmers Market on the 31st. I have a link on our village website talking about the meetings, and allows the reader to pull up the flyer that's got a link to the Zoom meeting for next Wednesday's meeting, and it's also got a link at the bottom of the flyer for the website. So that's ongoing, and within that website they have an interactive map that allows people who want to contribute points of issues within the county, and there are categories of problems such as high speed sidewalks that need to be improved or installed, wide streets that are hard to cross if you're a pedestrian, bicycle issues where it's not configured for bicycle safety. There's all sorts of categories, and the public can open that and drop in a point and put their information in, and it will be considered for future work by the county and municipalities if we ever start, once we start working on the actual infrastructure related. This is just putting together our plan for that. So the current effort is just putting together the plan before we submit it to the federal government. And then after that, we can start trying to negotiate for grants and so forth to help pay for individual or multi-jurisdictional issues or projects. So that's ongoing. So I think that will go a long way to meet that particular pledge element. For pledge element 7, Jerry, what did we ever hear about from the DEC about your future contract? Was that picked up and carried forward, or?
Unfortunately, we have still not received word from DEC. My contract is technically in state until September. We just really have no news on it yet, and I'll keep updating you as soon. I'll get you an update as soon as I get it.
Okay.
But yeah, they're just lagging behind, I guess.
Okay. Not unusual for them. Once you've got that and we know what go forward, we can talk about evaluating our policies for climate resilience, and that's what this was over. Are you seeing the agenda?
No, not yet.
No. Oh, okay. I think I just forgot to share my screen. I apologize. I just have to share. Okay. And I will just share the agenda. Sure. Okay, you should be able to see that now. Fortunately, I've got some Zoom toolbars that are in the way, but I think we'll be okay. I just have to reconfigure my desktop so I can work around everything. So this is where I was right here. Still waiting for DC. The heat emergency plan. We researched heating, Kathleen, and actually a lot of the research kind of fell into our lap while my wife and I were in the UK, that we had that long heat wave, and Jody, our clerk, put together a posting with URLs to county and local listings for cooling center, and some recommendations on what to do with cooling. So some of that was done. So we just have to determine how we need to now document this. We were just basically working off of our the county health department and the state's listing for cooling centers. And I guess we just need something that explains that that's when there is a heat emergency. These are the two ways to get information, and just duplicate the
Right,
links.
I think,
Go ahead.
go ahead, go ahead, Ronnie.
No,
I was just
no,
thinking,
go ahead, Lynn.
rather than us trying to duplicate all those efforts, after all the looking around that I did, the information is there. People who sign up with Tompkins County Siren get a notice on their cell phones.
Right.
Not everybody has a cell phone, but it was also on the news.
Right.
So it's there are various ways the county is reaching people about cooling centers. As long as we have the proper links to the information sources, I think we're probably okay.
Yeah, and we share it on our website, and we can send out community emails to community, the village list and community links, email listservs that would communicate that information if we need to also. But we just need to see if we can document that to say, in case of a heat emergency, this is what we do, and see if that's enough. And if it's not, it's not. But we're not going to duplicate having to document and license and propose cooling centers.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah, we have them all, and that's already listed.
Have them all. And there's a church, and I've never heard anything about that church, the Christ Chapel that's up on Graham.
On Dartmouth.
I bet they have a nice cool basement, but I've never heard of any churches opening their doors. I think they just all expect places like the Y, the libraries, community centers, and malls. In the case of our situation with malls,
right,
where you can go to be cool.
Right. And probably to be on that state list, it's got to be inspected and approved.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't mean that still couldn't not. People who know about the church, if they open their doors, they could still use it too. But I don't think it's an official
right
center.
And
it could be interesting to ask if they were willing to, provide that service though.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever asked them, as far as I know.
No, we haven't. But I would they may already have something where they let their members know about it, but would they be willing to also accept local residents who feeling the effects of the heat to come in too? So,
would they be worried that they'd end up with the homeless people that have been camping out?
Probably, but we would let them tell us that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt to ask, at least, to see if they would be willing to do that.
So under, we could list the community resources. We could also list 211, because they can direct people to resources. And also COFA, Office of the Aging newsletter does have information on how to get air conditioning units.
Who was that again, Kathleen? I'm sorry, I missed who you said.
Oh, something like just a flow diagram with the list of community resources. 211 can put people in touch with resources. And the Office of the Aging also had in their newsletter information on how to get assistance for getting an air conditioning unit for those that need it.
Yeah, we could make a like you say, a flow chart, or at least a listing on our website that we could just
Right.
trigger and turn on, and when there is a heat emergency, and just say, here are resources for everyone, and let them go through there and find it quickly, what would best serve them. Okay, so I made a note here of that. So shade structures policy, Drew had sent some stuff. Cooling centers, I think we've got the cooling centers covered now. I'm hanging on to his notes because we might look at it later. I have it saved in a folder for that meeting from the 21st of March. So
would it be worth just sort of drafting just a sample policy? Oh, and are there any existing policies? Because that Jerry, you have access to, like a model?
I can probably create a model. I know that a lot of other communities in the state have done enacted policies already, so I can take a look at those and kind of either send you examples of it or create a template for you to use.
Just examples is fine. To
Oh, okay,
just
perfect.
get an idea, yeah.
right, and
Yeah, I can send those later.
and it might encompass much of the information we've just been discussing about the heat emergency plan, cooling centers, etc.
Because I can see that all be combined.
Yeah, it's all interrelated, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So for the next one, conserve natural areas. This has been these have been identified in our Greenway plan and referenced by the comprehensive plan too. And Kathy, you sent us information about extreme heat guidance resource links. I think maybe I need to move that
to the heat.
Yeah. Let me move it up here.
Because they have much more than just heat. They have heat, cold, weather, disaster, in-place shelter, evacuation, webinars, all sorts of stuff.
Which can become part of our policy, some of our resources under our policy.
Yeah. Okay. And includes, disabled pets, etc.
Right. Yeah.
That would come in under emergency preparedness, probably.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
That's part of that CAG community advisory group, the county that Jeff Bowles and Jeff Dunn co-chair.
Yeah. Okay. You work in the office.
So, right.
Okay. The conserve natural areas I just covered. Culverts and dams. John is putting together a list. We've have at least 2 major culverts that we've right-sized within the village. One is over on Graham Road, just around the curve on Dart Drive from me. It was right-sized several years ago, and then we right-sized a culvert on the southeast corner. I think that's correct. Southeast corner of the mall, and we'll also be right-sizing or replacing a bridge over in Lansing Trails, the little path that goes up between Leafs Way and the other street just escaped me. doesn't matter. We will be replacing that bridge with an actual culvert with a walkway over it this year too. So I believe that will, and the reason that's being done, one, the bridge is not safe, and two, that area needs a little more volume to move away from Lansing trails into the streams going down to the lake. So we will have 3 good examples of using the right sizing culverts. We don't really have any dams per se, but we do have culverts. So John's going to put together the dates and the reasoning behind all 3 of those. And if there are any more that I haven't thought of, he will add those to the list. The riparian buffers, there are a lot of these things that I need to get with I just haven't had time yet to get with Quio about the Cayuga Lake Watershed Intermunicipal Organization. They've put together documentation that we've participated in for a lot of these topics. And I need to work with them to see how much of those can be covered by our efforts working with them and their documentation for this. So I promise I will do that. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Can I actually jump in there a little quick?
Yes.
So I just happened to be in a meeting with Roxy, who's
Roxy.
yeah, and
Roxy.
so yeah, I was able to talk to her a bit. They have a watershed coordinator who's like looking to maybe get a big project with a bunch of the municipalities together on like a watershed project. So if there's any interest in that, I'm going to be talking with the watershed coordinator to see if there's anything we can talk about between the communities to do.
Okay. That's Isaac.
Yeah, and so that's kind of related to this.
Yes, it
a little
is.
off topic, but yeah.
We've had Lynn was a representative on this organization, and I was a representative, and now Susan Ainsley is our representative. So we've participated in this almost since its beginning, I believe, Lynn.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
almost since the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, very close enough to count, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know that these topics have been discussed at various times in various ways. It's just a matter of the documentation that they put together. That might not cover all, but I think that it will cover quite a bit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Roxy is going to be out on vacation, I believe, for a little bit. So that might end up being might take a little more time because because they might not be there yet.
Yeah, I will just send her an email and say, we're looking for your potential, Quio's potential coverage or documentation related to a lot of these topics from here, from this point, riparian buffers, all the way down to water conservation and reuse. The water smart landscaping, I haven't heard any of that discussed. Doesn't mean it's not there, but that would be something that we could add to our Greenway plan, and potentially, I guess, our comprehensive plan if we wanted to.
I think that's a really fertile area for the planning board to be considering in future development. We've been following stormwater regulations as they apply to MS4s, of which we are one.
Right.
But we haven't really been particularly proactive in stepping out in front of this and saying, okay, new developments over a certain size have to put in rain gardens.
Right.
Not just retention ponds, but something that actually really looks nice. Retention ponds are fine as long as they have water in them, and then eventually they dry up.
Right.
Which is what they're supposed to do. But rain gardens, we had one at the village before we put in the new building. And it had all kinds of interesting plants in it. It becomes a little ecosystem. Right. They're not just a piece of cake to put in. I mean, you have to really plan carefully and construct them the right way and put in the right plants, and you have to maintain them. But I think that keeping more rain on the land, keeping more water on the land is our ultimate goal. And we are going to have to, I think we're going to have to push a little harder to get infrastructure in that actually does that.
Does it? Yeah, and just as important is this ability to slow
Yeah.
the rain runoff, because with
Right.
our, at times torrential rainfalls, it's good to have different landscaping components and retention ponds that just basically slow the rain off and let it work in an area before it rushes out to the lake and
Right. Well,
takes
we're
yards with it.
we're still suffering, I think, from the old attitude that you want to get water off your property as fast as
As fast
possible.
as possible.
Get it to
Right.
whatever receiving waters you can, because you don't want to deal with it. So perforated pipes, French drains, ditches, whatever it is to get the water off your land, rather than trying to keep it there,
Right.
recharge the aquifer. Anyway, I know
Yes.
I harp on this every time I get a chance.
No, it's the current trend in climate change is to get water dumped quickly and then have a drought. So
Yeah,
the more you
right.
can store it and use it for a longer period of time, not necessarily through irrigation pipes, etc., but just through natural ways, I think
Right.
it is important. So I think it's a good.
Agreed.
It's only one point, but these things are. It's not a matter of points. It's a matter of doing what's needed for the health of the
Yes,
village.
I mean, that's
So,
right.
There's the intermunicipal, the Cuba Lake Watershed Organization.
That's
Yes.
Quio, yeah.
They actually have on their site another municipality that addressed just that with really good flyer packet of information on just how to do landscaping.
Good.
Landscaping guidelines to slow runoff and erosion control, and that's on their site.
Oh, that's good. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And Cooperative Extension had a wonderful booklet about living on the lake when Sharon Anderson was still director of the.
Oh yeah, water. Yeah.
Gosh, you probably saw it, Kathleen. It was a nice 8.5 by 11 book on how to keep water on your land and how to landscape.
Right.
How to
I remember
do
that.
revetments. And it never went into second publishing, I don't think, but I bet that's still around out there. It's like lake living, or I can't remember what the name of it is. I probably have a copy of it in my stuff and I could bring one to the village.
Well, you know what? Let me find that link again on the watershed, because that was a recent one and it was really well done.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, just forward it along when you find it.
Okay.
And I just put a note to check their website because I had forgotten that they just recently revamped and released their website. So while Roxy's gone, we might be able to get some of this information from the website and then fill in the blank or the spaces when she gets back. Okay. Still, we're going to skip over the next pledge element areas just for a while until we get some of these others taken care of. And we're getting closer to chiseling away some. So for the CEC, we're still, I think, 19 points away from a bronze certification as far as the climate smart communities certification for bronze. So once we get some of these done, I think we will be there. So that's still in process. So the community solar campaign, May and June, there were 8 signups. There's been at least one more since the last reporting by Solar Farms New York. So we've actually gotten 9. And once we get 10, we can submit documentation for a $5,000 grant. Chris and I are kind of watching out for that. We get notified once a month by Solar Farms New York how many people have signed up since the last report. And then the village will get additional checks for $100 per new sign up. So we've currently collected 800. There should be another check for 100, and hopefully we'll get 1 or 2 more people too. So that's still ongoing, seems to be working. And today, Chris and I worked to submit our Village of Lansing Tier 2 clean heating and cooling documentation to CEC, to NYSERDA. And so once that's approved, we could be awarded a $20,000 grant. So we've got that done too. So anything else, Chris, that that's right, we were talking about that what we've got this $20,000, we've got $5,000 prior, and we potentially will have 5,000 from the new community solar campaign. I was thinking, I know that we discussed it, and I forgot about this until afterward, Chris. I think we might have used a portion of that first $5,000 to help purchase the rights to change some of the NYSEG-owned streetlights to village-owned streetlights with LED bulbs. I know it was recommended, but I can't recall if that was formally done. So we might have spent a portion of that first $5,000 for that. We figured that was a good clean energy project for that money.
For sure. Yeah.
And but with this, so we should have 20,000, potentially 25,000, or a little bit beyond that for projects within the village for clean energy. So just wondering if anyone might have some ideas or be thinking about ideas that we can discuss here and also bring up to the Board of Trustees. You don't have to, it's not no pressure, we don't have to do it today, but if something's been on your mind that might be a good project, we could talk about it now.
Any suggestions from other areas?
Other municipalities.
Yeah, like EV charger.
So that was I heard Jerry talking about the TCOG meeting earlier today. Haley from the county let us know that they had put out that RFP for EV charging as a service, which I believe the village had submitted a couple of potential sites to. So she said that she would be sending a little bit more information out about that. We may be getting an EV charger sort of through that solicitation anyways. Other projects, I mean, it really, it really is dependent on what is right. But I'm working, a very popular one that I'm working with a bunch of communities on is an energy audit and then building upgrades. So you get the energy audit and an engineer will come in, take a look at certain cost and energy savings, like measures that you can take. So like double glaze your windows, air seal the doors, and look at like what your potential payback for stuff like that is, what your energy reduction is going to be. It can be a really useful like capital planning document to have, especially if you've got a facility that like I know the village hall is like decently recent and pretty well constructed, so that may not be an awesome candidate for it, but so that's one option. Especially village being the size that it is, if you've got a codes department and they've got a vehicle, an EV might be a really good fit for that department to be able to make those short trips, go do assessments, that kind of thing. The sort of the potentially more like further afield one, especially thinking about all these storms that we've just had, is I've been working with some communities on the FlexTech process. So FlexTech is this NYSERDA offering that does it's called Flexible Technical Assistance. And they'll come in and they'll do anything from like an energy audit to decarbonization planning to you know, climate and sustainability planning. So it might be possible if we had, especially a building project, but you know, if we wanted to have them look at, for instance, what would be required to turn the village hall or the village highway garage into a cooling center, into like a community refuge? What kinds of backup system would you want to invest in? What kinds of, you know, start looking at that kind of thing. Might be possible or of interest to engage Flex Tech and see like what's the word? Flex Tech can also be sponsored by the village for a non-village recipient. So like the fire hall, right? For instance. So that's one thing to think about. You know, we've already got LED streetlights. We may be getting EV chargers. Yeah, those are some of the big ones that I would encourage people to think about. You know, it's yeah, especially the outages of the last couple of days have really like, you know, it might be, if that's not a thing that we're already exploring through our other avenues, and I know the county is doing some of it. I haven't seen their plans yet, but that might be something to take a look at.
I have a quick little addition to that, at least related to the flex tech studies. If you're trying to look at kind of a resilience center, a refuge center, this is kind of this is a rumor, so this is not confirmed, and I just want to point that out, okay? But I heard from a colleague that NYSERDA is potentially going to be funding and releasing funds for resilience centers. So this is still being talked about right now. It's being proposed. There's no confirmation of this yet.
Yeah.
But if you end up going through the Flex Tech avenue, there is potential future funding for this. So I don't know if you were aware of that, Chris.
I
Actually, I
was
heard
not.
about that.
No,
I
NYSERDA
heard
doesn't
about
tell me
that
anything.
from Guillermo. He like heard like through the olive branch,
Yeah,
but it's not confirmed yet. But it is, if it
sure.
is a potential thing that you guys are interested in, there might be potential funding for it in the future.
What's a resilience center?
Just like a center that is, you know, energy efficient, can serve as the heating cooling centers, and is
Okay,
safe from natural hazards or
I see.
climate related hazards. Yep.
Okay, interesting.
How else would it function other than to act as a heating or cooling center? I mean, I'm
Potentially
assuming that
like
it has
backup
other
power.
main- What?
Sorry. Potentially
ahead.
backup power, shelter, and just like anything you might need it for in the case of emergency.
I see, but otherwise it wouldn't have any other function. It might just be sitting there, right?
Well, and that's why you'd want to pair it with like an existing
Right.
facility, highway
Right.
garage, fire hall, something that's especially highway garage, fire hall, you know, you can pull the trucks out of the bay and now you've got all that floor space.
True.
You know, other options, other like things that I've seen people incorporate into this type of thing before they were called resiliency centers is you know, kitchens or like backup power necessary to like cook meals. So there is a there's this guy I know who runs a barbecue pit between Montour Falls and Watkins Glen, and it just in the last couple of days there've been a ton of people that like don't have power, don't have whatever. And so he's just been cooking breakfast nonstop for like 48 hours and people can like drive by and grab, you know. So incorporating something like that, you know, you have a bunch of outlets for people to charge their phones. You've got, you know, storage space for blankets, you know, maybe not cots, but like, um, and then, so, you know, one thing that Flex Tech could look at, they do offer like some planning and sustainability. This process is a little complicated to actually to dive into, but I think if we had an idea of what we wanted to, you know, they could also like again look at the footprint of a building and say like, okay, is this facility well drained enough so it's not going to flood, right? You've got 100 people like taking refuge here. So that could be one option.
So, I'm just thinking right in the village, like on Oak Crest, there is the small fire station,
Mhm.
just, very small. There's Food Net with the kitchen. There's the Village of Lansing Community Room, which is small. I mean, they're all small spaces.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
But other spaces, I'm
that's why I
wondering.
was thinking of the church.
Mm.
And in fact, there's another church, isn't it? The Vineyard up in the old
Yes.
Bishops.
Yeah, the
It's still
small
there.
mall. Yeah.
That's another church space.
Yeah.
That's
And the
presumably that's-
temple.
and the temple.
Burdick.
Yeah, Tikkun Vor.
Is that
Uh,
in the village?
Yeah,
I never
Yeah.
know where the line is there.
it's a little further north,
Yeah. Okay.
but that's Oak Crest. Sorry, no, that's Burdick Hill, and that is in the
Oh, that's
village.
something different. I was thinking of the one that's over in the small mall. The
Yeah,
learning center type thing.
that's the Vineyard, I think it's called, or the Vineyard.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's a Christian church of some sort.
Mhm.
But yeah, Tikkun Vor, I don't know how big their congregation is, and I've never been inside the building, so I don't
Me
even
either.
know what kind of
I
public
just walked by it.
space. Yeah. What other? There's some kind of community building up in Horizons with a pool, but it's probably not very big. Maybe that would provide, shelter just for their own people who live up there.
Oh, the community room, the
There's some
community
kind of-
center.
Yeah, there's some
Oh.
kind of community room up there. I've never been in
Yeah,
it.
that's, yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Well, that's something certainly all of this is something to think about. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we haven't had a major disaster in the village that I can even remember.
Yeah.
We had a major ice storm where trees were down and power was out for weeks at a time, and people couldn't, everything in their freezers spoils.
Yeah.
We haven't had a Texas event.
Yeah.
Or
So-
Florida.
or Florida, where the loss
But
of
it's-
power can be really a huge
Mhm.
problem. Everything starts running on generators, and that has those have their limits.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Plus, it's no longer clean energy at that point.
Oh gosh, no.
I also feel like tornadoes are not really talked about that often, but I feel
Yeah.
like
Well-
I've just been hearing more and more about tornadoes in the
Yeah.
neighboring areas. Like
Look at Rome.
we had one in Broome County, right, not too long ago, and that's like a totally insane thing to hear about now. Because
Yeah.
like 2 decades ago, you wouldn't have heard about any
I-
tornadoes in the state.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Even
Yeah.
10 years ago in this area, it was like, when people said tornado, they meant like a strong thunderstorm passed through, and
Yeah.
now it's like actual.
No, it's real
Yeah.
twister.
Real
Yeah.
tornadoes.
I mean, you look at what happened to Rome.
Yeah.
If only a tornado could have done what happened there. That's not a derecho, it was
Yeah.
that was something spinning.
Yes.
And I
twisted.
think we have to anticipate
More.
going forward, it's just going to intensify. So,
Yes.
Yep.
It also, there's the even if sort of the village of Lansing itself can kind of withstand or dodge some of these events, increasing the capacity for the community helps Hugo Heights, helps Town of
Right.
Ithaca, and then
Yes.
they're also investing in some of this stuff, and so that helps, right? So there's potentially some real value in
Yeah.
taking a look at it. I mean, again, it is quite the process, and
Mhm.
I would be remiss if I did not at least plug again. EV for the code guys, hard to miss with. The fuel savings on something like that can really add up,
Right.
and but
Yeah. No, it can, because he's driving just within.
He's driving a
village
monster
boundaries.
pickup truck.
Does hybrid work for that too?
Sure.
unfortunately,
Oh,
NYSERDA
it-
won't fund
A
any
hybrid.
fossil. Yeah,
Nothing
So-
nothing. It's hybrid.
yeah, no hybrids, no.
No intermediary. Got it. Okay,
Transit.
Good to know. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Mhm.
Because it's not driven all day, and
Right.
it's driven to a point, stopped, and then he inspects and gets in the vehicle and comes back and can charge it in between. And
Mhm.
I think one issue would be that it would probably be exposed to vandalism or theft when it was not being used, because it would not be a vehicle that the code enforcement officer would take home and drive in.
Well, then maybe we park it somewhere.
Yeah.
We might have to build a little shed at the back, amongst all the snow
There.
plows and other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That houses a little EV. We have the land.
We have some land. Yeah, we could do that.
So, Chris, was it you who was saying NYSERDA is doing energy audits for businesses? Who's doing the energy audits?
NYSERDA's, they contract with L&S.
Who are they?
They're an engineering firm out of New York City.
Okay.
There are some other avenues for energy audit type studies. The restriction NYSERDA puts, so if, for instance, if you want to use the grant money to buy a heat pump, that's totally kosher. If you want to use the grant money to like weatherize your exterior doors, you have to have their energy auditor come in and say that that would actually be a cost-effective way to reduce energy use. So it is a valuable tool. It's like that's the hurdle you got to go through. The reports, I might be able to, I don't know if I have one offhand, but the reports that they gin up are like, again, they're useful at really mapping out a lot of these different options. They give you a full menu of like, this isn't going to be cost effective. This is going to be like, it's not going to help you reduce energy. Like I saw them recommend, they recommended some measure that had nothing to do with energy. They were like, this is just going to be way more comfortable for staff. And so that's probably worth it. So they're useful documents. The way that would work is we would do, we've got the grant funding. So as part of the grant, you actually like, you buy the study from them, costs about $3,000. And then you can commit the rest of the funding to implementing what they tell you.
Have they done any audits in this area?
Yes, that's what I didn't know if I had any offhand. We had one done for Dryden. Town of Dryden had one done. What else I have? Town of Danby.
For the town government?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. And they paid what, maybe $2,000 to $3,000 for that?
Yes. Yeah. Dryden paid 3,400, I think, for theirs. Danby's was under a slightly different grant, so I'm not quite sure. Not quite sure what they went with. But so that's, that's one option.
One project that I was curious about within the recent years was to find a way to put EV charging stations in our parks, our village parks, parking lots, and somehow find a way of getting those connected into solar panels that would be on our pavilion buildings. I'm not sure that's possible, but it was something that I was toying with for a while. Just public EV charging stations, and we could also have private EV charging stations for things like our village DPW crew to use electric lawnmowers that could charge at each of the parks while they could like charge a battery pack. Some of the electric lawnmowers have battery packs you drop in. It's like, a standard battery. You just drop them in, and they could be charging extra batteries while they're mowing a park and then drop them in and go to the next park, et cetera.
Mhm.
That was one thing I was thinking about too. But we just get some ideas, and once the money comes in, we could start talking with trustees and seeing what might be good. But these are some good ideas, and definitely good starts. Oops. Are there any additional topics for tonight?
I still have this vision of shade devices over parking areas that have solar panels on them. What they would charge, I'm not exactly sure, but maybe an EV station, not just at
Yeah.
our parks, but providing shade, because none of our parking areas has any shade at all.
I know, it's just a flat surface.
And it's black.
Mhm.
And we now know you can fry yourself on that stuff. That is
Yes.
dangerous,
Yeah.
really dangerous.
I have seen a few installations done like that, airports, et cetera, but
Yeah, at airports, that's
it-
where you see it. And
it
the thing is,
requires a
it's mostly
commercial investment almost.
private
Yeah.
land. It's like at the mall. Wouldn't it be nice if they had ranks of covered parking? You still angle in, perpendicular parking, but you have a long shed that covers the
Yeah.
parking area, so there's some shade, and then you put panels on them.
Right.
But that's
It
the
is,
mall.
speaking of Florida, it's actually a more common design down there that I've been seeing. Um, but it does tend to take quite a bit of investment. And part of why it takes quite a bit of investment is like there just isn't really a payback period. Like if I
Yeah.
own a parking lot, I don't get anything back.
Right.
I can sell the electricity on the solar panels, but like there's no way that I'm making enough off those panels to like really ever pencil out that cost, which is not a great reason not to do it, but that's why you don't tend to see it. There's also grounds crews tend to like really not like the prospect of having to like plow around one more thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, they could probably adjust how they plow, but it is like
That's hard when you've got all of
It's-
those uprights.
yeah. So it's I mean
Uh,
it's certainly something if we wanted to like engage a solar contractor and like see what they thought about it, it might be something we could look at.
The trick would be
Um,
encourage our commercial folks to do it. And for something like Tops, where the people who park probably aren't there all that long. It's a fairly fast turnaround for mall parking,
Yes.
I would think, because you're shopping. Whereas, and the same with professional buildings, like we have quite a few medical buildings in the village now, quite a few. We're becoming quite the hub for medical. I think we are the other medical hub. Besides downtown and the hospital, we've got a lot of Cuba medical infrastructure now in the village. Anyway, just some thoughts.
I mean, I think ideally, I think something like that would be great for like a park and ride area where people could drive
Yes.
yeah.
in and park with, and then take a mass
Take a
transit into wherever they're going, and then they have their car charged during the day. But then you've got one car in one spot for an 8 to 9 hour time frame. So anyway.
Yeah, places near parks or anywhere where you could have a park and drive, if it's on the bus route,
Yes. Yeah.
locate that. But how about waste reduction?
The CEC grants are pretty focused on energy, especially energy efficiency and clean energy kinds of things. So we could do energy efficiency at a waste reduction site, but
Yeah.
we can't really invest in like compost, diversion, that kind of thing.
Right.
The thing about waste reduction is that it happens kind of, it tends to benefit somewhere else, not just you, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, if we're all reducing our waste, the aggregate energy savings accrues over a wide area, not just in one place.
Right.
So it's pretty hard to measure too. I worked with NYSERDA when I worked for the county, the solid waste division, and we got our first grant from them for waste audits. And we did about 100 waste audits in Tompkins County, and we hired people from Cooperative Extension. They were temporary employees for the summer to do the actual auditing. That was not a fun job.
Hmm.
That was done in hazmat suits down at the tipping floor when waste would come in from a particular business, and we have arranged it ahead of time that they would bring in their waste for that day, and then these 3 guys would sort through it and then categorize everything so that we could tell people what they were throwing away,
Oh,
because most of them had no idea.
yeah.
Wow.
So you
And
have
it
no
was-
idea what you're handling until you handle it.
Oh, it was wild. I mean, we
I can
had
imagine.
between 30 and 40 categories that we sorted into that were the major categories. And then there was just oddball stuff, but it was not a pleasant job, but it was very interesting. And it gave us a huge amount of data. But poor NYSERDA, they had never dealt with waste before, and they kept trying to get us to convert what we thought we were saving by, you know, waste reduction measures, how you would turn that into BTUs.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
water into wine. I'm sorry, we
Yeah.
could not do it. And we went around and around with them on this. They just couldn't get it. We couldn't do what they wanted us to do, but they did grant a huge project.
Interesting.
We had really great information that came out of it. It was a wonderful campaign. But they want to know the energy savings of
Yeah.
everything. And if you can't quantify it, saving waste by using reduction and reuse and elimination of using things, it is so difficult to convert. That's really difficult.
I was thinking more along the lines of climate and the impact on climate, and water quality.
Yeah, they're big.
Yeah.
So I
Again,
was thinking
unfortunately,
it from that point of view.
it would be, yeah, this is an ongoing discussion
Yeah.
at the state level where
Yeah.
many of us encourage them to broaden the scope of projects, but they are very focused on,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Even, you know, Jerry and
Okay.
I, we work pretty closely together. Funds from CEC can't be used as the match fund for like a climate smart
CSC,
grant.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
it's-
but-
We encourage people to do them at the same time, and then they're like, cool, can I do this?
Yeah.
And then Jerry and I have to be like, nope.
So then the bookkeeping for those become problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, keep thinking, and if you get any ideas, obviously between now and the next meeting, just shoot an email out to the group or to me, and I'll forward it to the group. Yeah,
It seems to me that technology is changing so rapidly now.
yeah.
You know, we were talking about electric vehicle chargers when BJ's went in,
Mhm.
and those were the first ones to go in the village.
Right. Still there.
They're still there.
Mhm.
We didn't think there would be an EV in the entire county that would ever want to go there to charge. And now look at how many electric cars are out there, you know,
Yeah.
just within the last 10 years.
Right.
It's pretty impressive. So
Yeah, but
we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, unfortunately, those 2 charging stations are just kind of hidden at the back of the
Yeah.
building, and not many people know they're there. You have to
They
actually
should have
go
been
look
out
for them.
in the main parking lot probably, but they're right next to the building.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think
look-
once you drive an electric vehicle, you know where all the
You know
charging
where they all
stations
are.
You
are.
do
You've
start
got
to,
'em-
yeah.
You know, you've got a map.
That's true.
So.
Well, that's all I have for this evening. If you get some more ideas, if something comes to you at 3 in the morning, wait till about 8 in the morning and send me an email.
Okay. Otherwise, our next meeting is on the, what is it?
Oh, let me see if I can find
It's the
that.
15th.
15th of
Yeah.
August 15
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah, I can't get
At
to my
5.
map easily right now.
You gave us the whole list for the whole year,
Okay,
which I dutifully
Oh.
wrote down.
okay. So, I guess that would be all for this meeting, and thanks everyone for the feedback and the input.
Yeah.
And I will see you next month, but you
Good
know where to
discussion.
find me.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Ronnie.
night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night. How do I get out of this? How do I get out of, oh, leave.
Leave. Yes.
Thanks.